Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, secondary two students. Uh, Today we are going to work with our poetry this term, which is essay on criticism. Our poet here is Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope was born in London. Okay. This we won't give you much details about the poet. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, second two students. Today we are going to study poetry. Our poet this term is called essay on criticism. Essay on criticism. Our poet here is Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope. He is a British poet who was born in London. All right, and this is brief information about, or brief notes about the poet. Before we go to the poem, I'd like to give you an introduction on this. I prepared this. Let's try this first. An essay on criticism was the first major poem written by the English writer and poet Alexander Pope, who was born 1688 and died 1744. Despite the title of this poem, the poem is not as much as original as an original analysis as it is compilation of the Pope's various literary opinions. All right, it's an attempt to. He says here, talk about the rule of good arts, and good criticism. All right, this is the first part of this. Here is a commentary on this poem. Then we will get back to this. The whole poem is written in heroic couplets. You know, heroic couplets means two lines, two lines. The form which Pope worked in most and which he published and brought to perfection. The heroic couplet consists of two rhyming lines of verse. It is usually in iambic pentameter. The rhyme scheme of this poem, all right, as you see here, A, B, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, A, again, A, E, F, F, G, G, okay? The heroic couplet usually carries complete sense within itself. I mean the sense that the poet wants to convey, he wants us to know, is there in the couplet. All right? And it connects the rest, it is connected to the rest of the poem. It expresses complete idea. All right? This is one of the reasons why many of Pope's couplets have become known as epigrams, meaning uh, sayings rather than proverbs. People use in everyday life, okay? Uh, because they are concise, means short, and clever expressions, okay, of general truth. Like here, the one we have here, like kings, we lose the conquests gained before by vain ambition, still to make them more. All right. Uh, Point number two, the opening lines of the passage or of the poem embody Pope's belief in the essential tightness and wisdom of nature. Okay. In another poem, he proclaims that he continues again through several lines to develop the re-express and re-express again uh, one idea, which is the central idea of in the passage. He meant that every man or each man would do well to stick to what he knows. Pope again uses visual images such as the image of the ocean eating into the land, the process of corrosion or erosion of land on the one end and leaving wide sandy beaches on the other, okay? Or the king that trying to conquer new lands, he tried to make the image nearer to us, but he makes no startlingly original use of poetic figures. Poetic figures. There is uh, a metaphor in lines 7 and 8 where he speaks of the imagination as a sun with warm beams and of the memories as wax figures melting away. He here give us the image of memories as wax melting away by the heat. Finally, much of Pope's art depends on the relationship he creates between individual words, the words he uses in his poem. For example, his repetition of the rhyming of the rhyme AA in the first and fifth couplets, he does not really repeat the same rhyme. The repetition here has a purpose. ليه غرض هنا من الريبيتيشن التكرار بتاع lines, but the identical words. However, he repeats them with variation بتنوع. Wet means the same thing in both couplets, but alters fit so that in the first it is an adjective, while in the fifth it is a verb. Okay. Again, we go on within many lines. There are examples of sound patterning as the repetition of the ta sound, things fixed and limited and limits fit. The alliteration in fixed and fit. Remember, the alliteration means the initial sounds in the same line. اللي هو طبعا the letter F here, as we see, and the letter F here in fit, and gains, and again in the two words, proud man's pretending wit, and the assonance across the lines in wisely white in the lines 2 and 3 and 4. Assonance اللي هو as we explain here بمعنى التجانس things in the is the repetition of vowel sounds in non-rhyming words, as in some ship in the distress that cannot ever live. Okay, that is in those words have the same vowel sounds, but they do not have to rhyme. Yani they are not rhyming. They are not the same sound. Okay. Another example is, do you like blue? Here, double O in the word blue sound is repeated within the sentence. داخل الجملة نفسها. This example rhymes, يعني they go together as rhyming words. Let's get back to the poem itself. We had a simple idea of this, and then we will go back to recite the first stanza, and then we will read the introduction to this one, all right? And we will get the new vocabulary, okay? Okay, let's start with this. First lines. Nature to all things fixed, the limits fit, and wisely curb proud man's pretending wit. As on the land, while here the ocean reigns, in other parts it leaves white sandy plains. Thus in the soul, while memory prevails, the solid power of understanding fails, where beams of warm imagination play. The memory's soft figures melt away. One sans only well one genius fit. So vast is art, so narrow human wit, not only bounded to peculiar arts, but oft in those confined to single parts. Like kings, we lose the conquest gained before, by vain ambition, still to make them more. Each might his several province well command, would all but stoop to what they understand. Here again, we recite this part. In this essay of the major poem written by, as I said, the English poet. Here we said this before. However, despite the title, the poet is not as much in an original analysis of as it is a compilation of Pop's various literary opinions. Okay, it is a poem in which Pop attempts to lay down the verse, okay, in verse, to lay down in verse the rules of good art and good criticism. Let's continue with the rest of the poem. All right. Nature to all things fixed, they limit fit, and wisely curb proud man's pretending wit. We are repeating some of the lines here. I'm going to start over. Nature to all things fixed, the limits fit, and wisely curb proud, and wisely curb proud man's pretending wit. As on the land, while here the ocean gains, in other parts it leaves wide sandy plains. Thus, in the soul, while memory prevails, the solid power of understanding fails, where the beams of warm imagination play, the memory of soft figures melt away. One sans only one genius fit. So vast is art, so narrow human wit. Not only bounded to peculiar arts, but oft in those, but oft in those confined to single parts. Like kings, we lose the conquest gained before by vain ambition, still to make them more. Each might has several provinces will command, with all but to what they understand. Some words, of course, we have so many words that are new for you, I know. We are going to introduce some vocabulary, some words here. Fixed means defined, limits means boundaries or borders, you can say. Fit here means suitable, wisely means with wisdom, curbed means limited. The curb, to curb something, like to curb a horse, to try to stop it. The curbs of the horse اللي احنا بنسميها بالعربي اللجام. And curb here means to stop something or to limit or control something. Pretending wit here, pretending to have intelligence, pretending to be a smart person and know more. Gains mean wins or takes grounds. Plains طبعا اللي هي بمعنى السهول يعني بالعربي. Areas of flat open land. Thus اللي هي بمعنى so. Soul, mind or spirit of a person, روح in Arabic. Prevails, wins, is stronger, اللي هي بمعنى control برضه, to take control. Genius, intelligence. Fit means suit here again. Vast, large or great. Bounded means limited. Peculiar, special. وممكن تيجي بمعنى كمان strange. Often طبعا is short for often. Conquest means victories, to achieve victory. Province, the kingdom, the area. Province, sometimes we translate as إقليم. Kingdom, طبعا province ممكن تبقى kingdom for a king. Area of specialization, you can say this doctor is specialized in, you can say biology, okay? Marine life is his province. You can say this to talk about someone who is specialized. Command means govern or give order, come from the word commander. Stoop, remain with. So we'll start to paraphrase here. Nature to all things fixed, the limits fit, and wisely curb proud man's pretending wit. As on the land, while here the ocean gains, in other parts it leaves white sandy plains. Pope here in this part declares that nature, this is introduction to some of the couplets here. Pope declares that nature has defined the correct limits of everything. حكمت. It put the nature put its rules, the correct limits of everything without needing the intelligence of man to help her. يعني no interference from man. Nature designed the ocean so that it eats into the sand in some places and leaves white sandy beaches in others. Here he wants to say that the interference of man is not sometimes welcomed. Alliteration here, we can say here, nature to all things fixed, limits fit. Again, we said here fixed and fit. This is alliteration. The first letter, زي ما احنا عارفين alliteration, two words have the same initial letters. The first letter here in fixed and the first letter here in fit. Personification, we know it all. As on the land, while here the ocean gains. Okay? Here he personifies the ocean as someone who gains control in one land okay, in the land, gains control on the land, eroding its away. Let's go to the other two couplets. Thus in the soul, while memory prevails, the solid power of understanding fails, where beams of warm imagination play. The memory's soft figures melt away. Again, we paraphrase this. As for man, still continues Pop. As for man, he cannot understand events and feelings while his memory of them is still strong. Okay? But on the other hand, when time passes and his imagination begins to interfere with his memories, the reality of those memories slips away to uh, remember things that happened to them. يبقى he means here لما يكون الايفنتس بالنسبه للانسان fresh ما بتخشش في نطاق الذكريات. Okay, they are not in his memory, they are present, but when time passes he starts to recall them. Figures of speech here, metaphor, we have metaphor here, where beams of warm imagination play, the memory's soft figures melt away. Okay, here he compares between the memories as the wax that melts away by the heat. All right, let's go on with other two couplets. One science only well one genius fit. One science only well one genius fit. So vast is art, so naughty human wit. Not only bounded to peculiar arts, but oft in those confined to single parts. Again, the words here, genius, intelligence, this word here, and fit here means suit. Where the intelligence is suitable to be used. The meaning, so vast art, he wants to say art is not limited, okay? It's unlimited, okay? Not only bound to peculiar art, here, peculiar, as I said, particular, and sometimes means strange, not familiar to everyone. Usually art comes out with ideas that are not known to everyone, not conventional, مش معروفة للجميع. Art usually comes with these ideas, otherwise it won't be art. All right, the word confined means limited, but often in those confined to single parts. Here, the paraphrase of these two couplets, art and knowledge are vast, and man's intelligence is limited. As I said here, most people can do well in only one thing. Means you cannot be master of all crafts. يعني مش بتاع كله حضرتك. The meaning of this, you are not intelligent in everything. You have to be intelligent in specific part to excel, to be the best with this field, if you want to be specialized. Sometimes, indeed, they excel in only one part of one thing. This is the meaning of this single part, confined to single parts. Another two couplets. Like kings we lose the conquest gained before. Like kings we lose. This is the nature of life. Kings win and lose, win battles, gain land, and then they lose them again. It's life. By vain ambition, still to make them more. Each might his several province well command. Would all but stoop to what they understand. As we said here, conquests means victories. Province, as said here, kingdom, or the area of specialization. Command means govern or control. Okay, stoop, remain with. Here, the meaning of these two couplets here, man should be content, to be satisfied, to be happy, to do the things he does well. I'm a doctor, I'm a good at my job, so I have to be satisfied and happy with this. Often, however, like kings fighting wars to extend their territory and so losing their own country. Here, he tried to make the figure clearer to us. Here we say we are like kings. Sometimes we wage wars or fighting wars to become better at things or gain things, to extend their territory. The king wage war or fight war to extend their lands, make their land bigger. This used to be in the past, of course. And so losing their own country. We sometimes, if we do this, this is a nearer to what we do in life. Sometimes you have, for example, treachery, or you have property, I mean, and you try to work harder to gain more. You neglect what you have and try to get more, so you may lose what you have already and lose everything in the finally. He say here, we lose what we have by trying to make it more. Is it clear? I hope this image is clear to you. So sometimes he meant here, we have to be content, Radin, with what we have in our hand. We shouldn't try to aspire to what others have and take it from them. That's why the poet here wants us to do this. Here he said here, if each person were to stick to that which he knows best, he would be able to master it completely. And this is a very, very, very important issue here. Okay? As I said here, sometimes in the fields of medicine, for example, a doctor, a general practitioner who works to diagnose the disease for people at hospitals, he shouldn't interfere in cardiology, for example, or in respiratory things, and try to diagnose them as the specialized doctor. This is, I try to make things clearer to you. All right. The same thing, for example, to a worker who is a technician, for example, electrician. Okay, an electrician cannot, for example, fixes for you the washing machine or the television set, for example. This is what is meant here. If each person were to stick to that which he knows, to what he knows best, he would be able to master it completely. All right, here. Here another thing we have. A heroic couplet means that the last two lines here usually carries complete sense within itself, even though it connects to the rest, okay, to the rest of the poem. It expresses a complete idea. This is one reason why many of Pop's couplets have become known as epigram, as I said here. That is saying people use them in everyday life to try to make people understand things, or to give them an example. Like what we say here in Arabic, الأمثال الشعبية. Okay? Because they are concise and clever expressions of a general truth. ان هم بيكونوا concise mean here فيها كلام بليغ، اوكي، وفيها تعبيرات ذكيه جدا ورائعه وحقائق بالنسبه لينا في حياتنا. Okay, I hope the message here to be clearer to you. Here the example, I read it before, but here after reading or explaining the poem, like kings, we lose the conquest gained before. Here, he says here, like kings, every one of us, he's a king with his territory, his house, his trade, his work. Like kings, we lose the conquest gained before by vain ambition, still to make them more. Vain ambition here, you can say here, vain here, something that the ambition here means dreams and aspiration, okay? Still to make them more, make our gains more. As I said here, again, this is the wisdom used by people, and this couplet here varies or carries, okay, conveys great wisdom here, which is we should be content with what we have in all, wherever you are, whatever your position is, okay? Be content with what you have. Try to excel, to be the best in your field, okay? Otherwise, you will lose your field of work, okay? And not mastering, you will not master either what you have or what you try to gain, okay? As I said here in the second comment here, the opening lines of the passage embody pop's belief in the essential tightness, all right? Tightness and wisdom of nature. In another poem, he proclaims, means declares that, okay, declares the same idea. He continues through several lines to develop and re-express one idea, which is the central idea of the passage. What is this? It's this part. It's this part. Each man would do well to stick to what he knows. This is the central idea here in our poem here. All right. I think we read these lines, okay? And I wish that you have enjoyed this. And if you have any questions here, you can please raise your hands here. Okay, raise your hand if you have any question, please. Can you hear me? All right, all right. By this, we come to the end of our session. Thank you all, and wish to see you later in another lesson, inshallah. Thank you all for your time.